Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're like most people, your days are just, defined by the relentless hustle, the emails, the meetings, all the logistics. And in that environment, it is so easy to overlook the simple, profound threads that actually bind us across time. We're talking about family stories. And not just those, vague, rosy memories of holidays past, but the real narratives, the tales of triumph, hardship, and the simple joys that really define generations.
We often dismiss them, don't we, as just mere nostalgia. But our sources today suggest these narratives are so much more powerful than that. They are quite literally the scaffolding of who you are and who you're becoming.
Scaffolding.
Yeah.
So our mission in this deep dive is to give you a true shortcut to understanding that profound power. We're trying to move beyond the, nice idea of sharing history and dive right into the core psychological benefits, the resilience, the emotional well-being, all the things that family storytelling unlocks.
And then we're going to detail the practical, creative, and modern ways you can stop worrying about fading photos and ensure these cherished memories not only live on, but are, easily accessible for future loved ones. We're basically giving you the toolkit to make this happen right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with section 1, because the findings here are quantitative and really powerful. This isn't just about, emotional anecdotes. It's about building measurable emotional strength. The source material highlights specific data on children and teens who hear more family stories. What's the observable outcome for them?
What's fascinating is the direct correlation to emotional health. It's really clear. Children and teens who are regularly exposed to their family narratives, and that includes the great successes and, importantly, the real struggles, they consistently show higher levels of self-esteem and, critically, lower levels of anxiety and depression.
That is huge. I mean, how does just hearing a story translate into an improved mental schema, better self-perception?
It provides a kind of cognitive grounding. When chaos hits in life, and it always does, right? A major family move or a personal setback. Knowing your history gives you a narrative structure. It helps young people feel profoundly rooted because their personal history isn't seen as this, random sequence of events. Instead, they see themselves as part of an enduring, purposeful story. They belong to something larger than their own immediate, isolated circumstances.
Right, that sense of belonging and structure. That must translate directly into how we cope with current difficulties. I mean, we know life inevitably throws challenges at us, but the sources suggest that knowing the family's track record actually helps you navigate your own struggles.
It absolutely does. It provides a living user manual for survival, in a way. If we connect this to the bigger picture, knowing stories of how your ancestors or older family members overcame major challenges, whether it was adapting to a new country, surviving an economic downturn, or restarting after a major failure, it provides an immediate framework for navigating your own current difficulties. It shows you that challenges are normal and that survival is, well, historically possible for your family.
So the story becomes a template. It's almost a psychological proof of concept.
Precisely. The source explicitly notes that this exposure to ancestral struggles helps individuals develop better emotional regulation. You realize you're not the first person in your family to face real adversity. And it fosters empathy for others because it shows you that resilience. It runs in the blood. You feel like you have a lineage of overcoming, which makes you feel supported and more capable.
I find that perspective so important. It shifts the challenge from being a purely individual burden to realizing you're part of a supportive team that stretches across time. And that shared narrative, I assume, strengthens the immediate family bonds, too.
Oh, it's the ultimate shared experience. Sharing these narratives, it fosters deeper discussions, greater happiness within the current family unit. It builds this inherent sense of unity when everyone contributes. You see grandparents recounting a tale, the parents providing some context, and then the grandchildren asking all these clarifying questions. These shared narratives ensure that bonds endure through life's changes because the history itself holds everyone together.
And while we often focus on the benefits for the younger generation, building their self-esteem and coping skills, the sources remind us that this promotes personal growth for everyone involved, not just the kids.
Yes, exactly. The act of telling the story itself is therapeutic. For the older generation, storytelling encourages relaxation, self-reflection, and a deep sense of fulfillment. It nurtures their emotional health by validating their own experiences. For all ages, it transforms, an ordinary family gathering into an opportunity for deep, multi-generational connection and personal validation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because now we shift from the immediate psychological boost, that inner strength, to the long-term impact on identity and legacy. It's about moving from personal well-being to tangible cultural preservation.
And this transition is crucial because the value of these stories extends far beyond the immediate family unit. We have to ask, what are we actually preserving for the long term? It's not just the dates and names on a genealogy chart. Family narratives are the primary vehicle for passing down traditions, core values, and vital lessons.
Can you give us an example of how a value is passed down through a story rather than just being stated as a rule?
Sure, think about the value of, say, thriftiness or civic duty. You could just tell a child, be thrifty. Or you could tell the story of a great aunt who, during the Great Depression, made an entire family's clothing from feed sacks. And because of that ingenuity, she was able to save enough money to buy land that became the foundation for the family business. That specific anecdote preserves the value, the ingenuity, and the cultural context all at once.
The lesson sticks because it's tied to a character and a plot.
Exactly. This act of preservation keeps our ancestors' experiences alive. And that richness ultimately deepens and enriches our understanding of our own identity. We become sort of three-dimensional when we understand the context and the moral struggles of the people who came before us. It gives you a blueprint for what your family stands for.
So we've established that family stories are crucial for psychological resilience and preserving cultural identity. But the biggest hurdle for most people is always the how. How do we stop talking about this and actually start doing it? Because, preserving history sounds like a massive, dusty, overwhelming project.
It doesn't have to be massive or dusty at all. Our sources provide a superb, actionable toolkit designed for the modern listener. It moves from simple, accessible documentation to leveraging some really powerful digital platforms. The key is just consistency and lowering the barrier to entry.
Okay, let's dive right into that toolkit. Method number one is perhaps the most obvious, yet it's often the most neglected. Record oral histories.
This is foundational. And the barriers to entry are basically non-existent today. You just need to sit down with your elders and capture their tales, specifically focusing on answering those questions you wish you had asked your great-grandparents. You don't need fancy recording equipment. Tools like your standard smartphone or readily available simple recording apps make high-quality audio or video capturing simple and immediate.
And if you're thinking about the serious long-term security of these recordings, the source highlights a fantastic resource. Tell us about the archiving options.
Right. So, platforms like the Library of Congress offer free resources and guidance on how to archive these recordings. And this isn't just, cloud storage. This is leveraging institutional expertise to ensure that your recordings meet a professional standard for preservation. It ensures they're safe for posterity and treated as a serious historical record. That is a serious legacy move, and it's free.
Okay, method number two focuses on all the physical stuff. The things cluttering up your attic, the photos, the letters, the heirlooms. We need to digitize photos and documents.
Yes, and the goal here is twofold: preservation and accessibility. First, you absolutely have to scan those old pictures, letters, and fragile documents to create robust digital backups. And for the physical items themselves, make sure you use proper acid-free storage so the degradation stops.
And once you have thousands of files, organization becomes the next problem.
Organization is everything. You need a system that everyone in the family can access and contribute to. The sources specifically mention using apps like Mylio. It's designed to help you organize and sync your digital collections privately across all family devices. It doesn't matter if they're across town or across the globe. It transforms a scattered mess of photos into a cohesive, organized family cloud that anyone you invite can navigate.
Okay, now let's get a bit more creative. Because preservation isn't just scanning. It can be interactive and hands-on. What about those approaches that make the process fun?
This is where preservation turns into a collective, hands-on family activity. I love this part. You can create large, chronological timelines of significant family events, which are great for visual learners and for providing context. Or you can curate story boxes. And these aren't just bins of old stuff. They're themed boxes filled with mementos and accompanying narratives that explain why each item matters. A theater program, a key, a faded report card, each with a little written card explaining its significance.
That makes the process so tactile and engaging. It really draws the younger generation in. And then there's the incredible power of shared sensory experiences through food and tradition. Method 4, sharing through recipes and hobbies.
Oh, it's the ultimate connector. It engages memory through taste and smell. You can revive those old family recipes, the ones that immediately transport you to your grandmother's kitchen, or revisit a specific craft or hobby tied to an ancestor. The key here is documentation. You have to document these traditions with photos and detailed notes. Maybe create interactive digital albums or cookbooks to keep them vibrant and accessible rather than just having them on a faded, stained note card. Include photos of the person making the dish or the family gathering where it was traditionally served.
Finally, we have to talk about how innovation is blending tradition with accessibility. Method 5, utilizing digital platforms. This is where it all kind of comes together.
Absolutely. Beyond simple storage, we now have dedicated tools that facilitate the gathering process itself. For example, apps like Storyworth are designed to help safeguard stories. They send weekly prompt questions to an elder, and then they compile their responses over a year into a tangible book. This removes that intimidation factor of having to start a massive project from scratch. And then other general archiving apps like Memories help categorize all the resulting content.
And what about those personalized dynamic tributes? You mentioned the concept of a living portrait. That sounds much richer than just an archive.
It is. The source material references creating an online memorial or a living portrait using platforms like a life portrait. This concept is different from a static memorial because it dynamically weaves all the digital elements together, the audio recordings, the photos, the recipes, the anecdotes, into a beautiful, accessible, and continually evolving tribute. It's a digital ecosystem for that person's history, accessible by the whole family, capturing the essence of their entire life story in one place.
And crucially, this isn't limited to human family members. You mentioned the source includes the idea of creating pet portraits.
That's right. For so many families, beloved pets are central figures in the narrative. And these platforms allow you to create personalized tributes that capture the essence of those cherished companions, honoring the significant relationship they had with the family. It sounds like the modern toolkit has really removed that excuse of, I just don't know where to start.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive with the goal of understanding the profound power of sharing and preserving family history. And what we found is that the benefits are immediate, psychological, and enduring. Let's quickly review the 4 gentle takeaways we found in our source material.
First, stories build resilience. Hearing how those who came before us faced challenges equips us to handle our own difficulties with grace, confidence, and a sort of historical template for survival.
Second, connection thrives in sharing. Regular, structured storytelling sessions turn families, whether they're immediate or extended, into supportive, cohesive, and functioning teams defined by a shared sense of identity.
Third, preservation is an act of love. Digitizing and documenting history ensures that no memory, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, fades away due to time or physical degradation.
And fourth, innovation keeps memories alive. Whether you use simple apps like Storyworth to guide the process or dedicated platforms for online living portraits, modern tools are blending tradition with unprecedented accessibility, ensuring future generations can easily connect with the past.
We really hope this deep dive inspires you to gather, share, and preserve those stories immediately. Whether you're honoring someone who has passed, celebrating a living family member, or remembering that cherished pet who really defined an era of your life, the time to start building that legacy is right now.
We'll leave you with a final thought to mull over that builds on this idea of history defining us. If our stories are truly the portraits of our lives, which single, unexpected anecdote from your family history best defines the specific resilience that runs in your blood?